want you to do is think of a specific example that recently or in the recent past happened where you were emotionally eating. And I want you to just kind of like start hashing it out in your brain. What happened? What was going on? Did you have an argument with someone? Was your boss being a dick? Like, what happened? And I want you to take a look at that and ask yourself, I want you to identify what emotions were you actually experiencing? Not what was the situation, what did someone else do wrong? What was your emotion? What did you feel? Identify that. This is a big part of what we're doing to overcome it is identify the actual thing, right? Not just I was feeling emotional and I ate a bunch of shit. Because I want you to start thinking in terms of behavior chains, which we'll get to in just a second. So, with that emotion you were feeling at that time, I want you to, on that same page, it says ways to feed your emotions. What are ways you could feed that individual emotion? Or if you listed two or three, how could you help yourself through that emotion? Not in a food way. What are some things that could help you through that particular emotion? Certainly some examples would be like if you're feeling depressed or feeling lonely, maybe calling someone, FaceTiming with someone, snuggling your dog, having someone around, getting on a Zoom call with someone. Feeling anxious. Anxiety is a lot of energy zipping around in your body really quickly. Get the energy out, do a workout, go for a walk, go for a run, something like that. That's going to be really good for anxiety because anxiety, if you imagine like the cells in your body, they're in like fast forward, they're moving super fast, they can't stop. So if we exhaust them a little bit, it helps a ton, right? If you're exhausted, could that be sleeping? But if it's not, can you do something else that makes you feel soothed while you're feeling exhausted? Having tea, taking a bath, lighting candles, wrapping in a warm blanket. Is there something you could do that helps you with that sensation of feeling taken care of when you're feeling that exhaustion, feeling tired? If it's boredom, boredom's a big one. What else can you do? Probably anything, really. But what else can you do to fight off that feeling of boredom? We've got an emotional trigger is anything. This could be memories, experiences, events, anything that sparks an intense emotional reaction, regardless of your current mood. So, have you ever been in a great mood and something happens, and all of a sudden all of your emotions change from the inside out? You feel like crazed inside and it comes out, and maybe that comes out as crying or yelling or whatever it is. So I want you to start to identify your behavior chain, right? If you skip ahead a little bit, you'll see here we're actually going to do a full chain in a couple of pages, but I want you to start writing it out now. So keeping with what you put on this page, you were thinking about a recent time where you were emotionally eating. You identified the emotion, but I want you to write out a little bit more. What was the trigger? What caused it? What led to you feeling this emotion that we have up here? What happened? What happened around you? And then what followed? So we know you felt that certain emotion, but what else? What else happened? What else did you do? What were your behaviors after that point? So you're going to write a few notes here. And then I also want you at the bottom of the page to, this you may not have an exact answer to right off the bat, and that's okay. But is there a particular time of day where you're emotionally eating? Is it always at night? Or what foods do you typically go for? I know we talked about that. Or is there a certain spot in your house, right? Like, is it always on the couch? But you find that you never do it when you're in the kitchen or when you're in your bedroom or when you're somewhere else. So I want you to just start identifying the pieces. That's what we're doing. We're putting the whole puzzle together. Here's what happens when I currently emotionally eat. Here's an example. Here's something that happened. It was a trigger. Here are my actions afterwards. And if I think about it bigger picture, I tend to always do it at night on the couch. I feel like we're playing Clue. At night on the couch with a Snickers. Now we're going to take some of these things you brainstormed right here in ways to feed your emotions. We've got our trigger. We're going to go to the next page. You're going to start putting some of that in here. What can you swap it out with? So old behaviors, not the trigger, not the food specifically, but behaviors. I yell, I cry, and then I go grab ice cream. I get frustrated. Okay, here's an example. I want to make sure that we're tracking together here. So an example, and this ties back to one that I said in the beginning, where I said getting things out of your house may or may not help, right? It may help acutely, but maybe in the big picture, it's not a big help. An example would be, I'm going to give you my own example. This is something I used to do so much. It was, I mean, years I did this. So it would be maybe I was feeling emotional about something, either anxious or sad or frustrated, whatever it was, right? And I didn't keep things in the house. I did not keep foods that I like in the house because I thought that's how I was going to lose weight. And if it's out of sight, out of mind, right? So I'd keep everything out of the house. I wouldn't have anything here. But now I'm feeling emotional and I want chocolate. Chocolate's my thing. I love chocolate. So I'm feeling emotional. I want chocolate, right? Now I'm looking around the house. I can't find chocolate. Guess what? I'm fucking pissed. Like I am angry because I really want, and it's not here. So now I'm frustrated. So I'm going to try to solve that or quell that feeling, that craving for chocolate with other things. So I'm going to make something. Typically for me, it would be peanut butter and jelly with like way too much peanut butter, like so much. It was insane. And that's not going to work. Okay, fine. So now a little bit later, I'm going to have something else and like scrounge up maybe chocolate chips in the house, like a little something that could kind of be like having a real chocolate craving fulfilled. That doesn't work. Now I'm pissed. I'm frustrated. I still want chocolate. I'm full. I'm feeling like shit. I'm mad at myself, but I don't care. I am in my feels. So now I'm gonna go drive my happy ass to the store. I'm gonna get a box of brownie mix. I'm gonna bring it home. I'm gonna mix up that whole thing, and then I am going to eat it raw. And I am going to sit there and be like, yeah, should have fucking done this in the first place, right? And I'm gonna eat way too much of it. And not only am I gonna eat way too much of it, I'm gonna eat way too much of it after just having had like 1,000-calorie peanut butter and jelly sandwich and whatever I have with chocolate chips on it or whatever else is in the house. So having it out of the house actually ends up hurting you a lot of times. Again, I'm not going to say this is 100% across the board, but by having things in the house that you can turn to in that moment, when you start to practice allowing it more often, it gets easier to now in that moment have a reasonable amount. Or something I keep in the house literally always, we always have a box of mug cakes, individual mug cakes. We have cookie dough and we have brownie always. And making one is like 400 calories or something. But like after I made it and I ate it, yes, there might be an emotional time where I want to make a second one, but at least it's individually packaged. So I have to stop. I'm forced to. I'm forced to stop and say, do I really want to make a second one? Not really. Okay. Right. But I'm not adding to the emotions. If I'm already angry, I'm already feeling hurt, I'm already feeling something, and that's why I want the chocolate in the first place. Now, adding to the emotions, adding to the frustration by just not having it here and trying to solve it some other way, it's actually fueling the emotions and can turn your, somebody said earlier in the chat that it turns into a binge, right? It turns into just going ham and really overdoing it. That's a lot of why, because you're trying so hard to avoid the thing, but like your brain is in there going, no, I told you, bitch, I said, get me chocolate, right? And you keep giving me carrots. I'm not interested. So we want to allow a little bit of it, and that's going to take some practice. But that's just an example of like trigger might be an argument or a whatever bad day at work, or I was mad at my boss. And then the behavior was all of that, was the trying to avoid it, having something else, going to the store, right? So that's what I want you to put on this page of the workbook when it comes to like behaviors. What am I doing? What follows, right? So now if I look at how can I swap it out? So old behavior is all of that, is the avoiding, getting angry, seeking out other foods, blah, blah, blah. How can I swap it out? You're going to scroll back up to the page where you brainstorm some ways to feed your emotions. And I want you to ask yourself which ones actually make sense as appropriate swaps. This might be the hardest part for you because on paper, it's really easy. Like, oh yeah, I'm craving chocolate. Like, I should totally just do some yoga next time. That's fine. That's going to feel great. But like, stop. And I want you to actually ask yourself, imagine when you're in those feels. Imagine when you're having that feeling. Is yoga going to happen? If not, that's okay. But what could? What's a stepping stone? What's a step in the right direction? I want you to I'm going to give you like 1 minute to brainstorm that a little bit. What is a reasonable swap that you can start with, knowing that we could still build from here? You could still work on this further, but what's a reasonable swap that you could start with?